Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I did a little short on this particular topic a little bit ago, a little about an hour or so ago, because I kind of wanted to see some more stuff that would come in. Well, some more stuff's come in, and I thought now might be the time to talk about this in this particular video. But before we do that, if you are new to the channel, if this is your first time seeing one of my videos and you love hockey like I do, it would be awesome and would be greatly appreciated if you would hit the like button, hit that subscribe button. Also, don't be afraid to hit the little bell too to be to turn on notifications anytime a video comes, a new video is uploaded, kind of like this one. So, the Coyotes had the vote tonight. The results did not go in the Coyotes' favor. Tempe voters turned it down, and it wasn't even close. They had three particular propositions. There was Proposition 301, 302, and 303. All of this had to do with the this Tempe sports complex and everything, and the voters in Tempe they turned it down. They just, a couple weeks ago it was talked about that the voting wasn't looking like it was going to go the way the Coyotes were wanting, because they had executives in the Coyotes organization going around door to door trying to to talk people into why they should vote yes on this. And it did not work. And it looked like from some of the results that we had seen, and this particular article that I'm looking at here, this isn't from like a Wikipedia type site. This is from like an Arizona an actual Arizona news outlet, Arizona Central or whatever. I think this is. Yeah, it says Cowboys. Coyotes concede defeat after Tempe voters reject hockey arena deal. So, yeah, it looked like it like I said, it wasn't close. I think one proposal was 56-43 no. Another one was, I think, 57-42 no, and I think the third one was 57-42 no. So none of them passed. And I have to think, now that the arena deal has been shot down, I've not heard anything about any other future plans to build anywhere else or go anywhere else. To me, after many years of Gary Bettman and the NHL doing everything in their power to save this franchise because they swore it could work, I was one who has said for years, this is not working. This can't work, because the fans just don't, they're not into it. Now, don't get me wrong. There are Coyote fans in Arizona. There are big Coyote fans out there. I mean, if not for the Arizona Coyotes being there, we wouldn't have Austin Matthews in the NHL. Austin Matthews, as a kid, grew up in Arizona. He started playing youth hockey because the Arizona Coyotes were there. So there was some good that the Coyotes did. And there are a lot of fans. There are a lot of fans in Arizona who are Coyote fans. There's not enough of them. There's just not enough. And I have to think, now that the arena deal has been shot down, I think now that the arena deal has been shot down, I think one proposal was 57-42 no. Another one was, I think, 57-42 no. And I think the third one was 57-42 no. So none of them passed. And now that the deal has been been rejected, which is interesting because, I mean, from everything that we had seen, there wasn't going to be any public money in this. It was a $2.1 billion deal that was all going to be privately funded. And that's the crazy thing. And it just and what they wanted to do is they wanted to turn what is currently a landfill. Well, apparently that's going to remain a landfill. So apparently Tempe people are fine that this landfill stays there. But the deal didn't seem like it was that bad of a deal, but this is, it's a blow to the Coyotes for sure. And I have to think this is a very similar to an Atlanta Thrashers type situation that this could be, because yes, you were going to play in Mullet Arena, share the arena with Arizona State. You were going to share that because you had a deal in place to move into this new arena. Well, now that deal's done. That deal, it's done. The voters the voters said no. So they're not going to have anywhere to put an arena. Why are you going to play at Arizona State? I think I don't see any other way that the Coyotes stay in Arizona now. To me there's no other way. It all hinged on this vote tonight. And the voters rejected it. Not only did they reject it, they rejected it overwhelmingly. I saw some other numbers too that came in. Each proposal was losing. The no's were in front 56-44. So that's a 12-point difference. Proposition 303 was losing 57-43. So it wasn't even close. We're talking 12 to 14 points in favor of no, we don't want them here. This to me tells me that even though the Phoenix area, we know how the NHL, they covet these big markets. That's why that's why the whole idea of entertaining the idea of them maybe going back to Atlanta for a third time, because Atlanta's a huge market. They figured we could make this work. This could work. Even though they'd had 28 years of proof that this would not work in Arizona. It did not work from the minute they moved there. I remember when they left Winnipeg and they moved to Arizona and became the Phoenix Coyotes. I was in college at the time when this move happened. And my first thought was, why? Why Arizona? It was very similar to when the Nashville Predators became a team. When they were selected as an expansion team, I thought, what the heck do the people in Nashville know about hockey? I'm like, this it's country music, the Grand Ole Opry. What do they know about hockey? Come to find out, they got to know hockey pretty well, and they love hockey in Nashville. It's worked in some places. It hasn't worked in others. It didn't work in Atlanta. It's worked in Nashville. It didn't work in Atlanta. It has not worked from day one that they went there. It just has not worked in Arizona. And we finally got confirmation of that. The fans, even though there are diehard Coyote fans in Arizona, and I feel for you guys, I really do. There's not enough of you. This is like, in Atlanta, there were Atlanta Thrasher fans. There weren't enough of them. Plus, though, it wasn't necessarily that Atlanta moved because there wasn't fan support. They didn't have a building. Their ownership was horrible. Their ownership, they lost the building. They had nowhere to play, and Winnipeg was the one that stepped forward and said, we'll take them, and off to Winnipeg they went. Now there are places, and this could from reading what Frank Saravelli had said, if the vote failed, this could happen fast. This team could move really fast. Now, of course, Javier Gutierrez, the president, said, he was very disappointed with the results of the vote. Commissioner Gary Bettman, he was also very disappointed, and he had said he was going to get together with the owner, with the owner, Alex Maruello, and try to figure out what's next. What's the next step going to be in the next couple of weeks? I don't see any other step other than take them Arizona. Bye-bye. I don't see any other step. Now, there are places that the NHL, one in particular that I know the NHL is looking at, which would probably make the most sense, because then you wouldn't have to monkey around with the divisions or anything, and that's Houston. They have coveted Houston for a long time. Houston is another big sports market. Again, though, what is their interest for hockey? We know they have the Houston Rockets. Obviously, if the Coyotes move, they would have to move into this arena and share the arena with the Houston Rockets. Now, what would you name them? Would you keep the Coyotes? The Houston Coyotes? That doesn't sound that, to me, it just doesn't flow together. To me, you'd have to come up with a different name. You could maybe go back to the Houston Aeros. They had minor league affiliate teams called the Houston Aeros a couple of different times. And so maybe you go back to that, or, where again, people are screaming, Quebec, Quebec, Quebec. They're not going to put them in Quebec. They are just not going to put them in Quebec, because you put them into Quebec, you have balanced conferences right now. You have 16 teams in the West, 16 teams in the East. You can't take the Coyotes out of Arizona and move them to Quebec, because then you're going to throw off the conferences. You'll have 17 teams in the East, 15 in the West. Some people then will go and say, well, then Detroit or Columbus should move back to the West. They're not going to move back to the West. Not without a fight. They did not want to be in the Western Conference. Detroit fought for years to get out of the Western Conference, even though they had spent so much time in the West. They didn't want to be in the West because there's the time change. You're changing time zones. And they don't want that. They don't want to be in the Western time zones. And darn well, Arizona or Columbus ain't gonna do it. Columbus is even further east than Detroit. So Detroit is not gonna move to the east. Or is not gonna move out of the east, I should say. So to me, the only logical place for them to put them is Houston right now. Even though we all know Quebec will support them. They will support a team. They're supporting the Quebec Remparts right now, where, I know a lot of people will say, well, their tickets are a lot cheaper than the NHL tickets. Quebec will still support an NHL team. They will. But the NHL, they have no, they do not. They to me, they would rather take a swift kick in the, in the nether regions 1,000 times before they put a team back in Quebec. They don't want them there. They don't want a team in Quebec. And it is sad because Quebec is a great hockey market. But there's no appetite for them to move there. Now, the interesting thing is because people have come up with, there's Houston, there's Kansas City, there's Salt Lake City, Milwaukee, there's a number of places. A couple of people have even thrown in Hamilton, Ontario, which I think Toronto would have a problem with. Some people have said Halifax in Canada. And to me, that's not going to work either because you're still going to have to move. You'd have to move a team from the west to the east, or from the east to the west, in order to accommodate that. I don't see that happening. Again, Quebec is the logical spot. Now it depends. Now this is an interesting thought here. Because when the Atlanta Thrashers lost their building and they had to scramble to find a place to play, Winnipeg stepped up immediately and said, "We'll take them." Nobody else did. This is the thing. Now I don't think there will be, I think there would be multiple places that would step up to take them. But if Quebec were to step in and say, "We'll take them," and nobody else does, if there's nobody else that shows interest, not even in Houston, not Kansas City, not Salt Lake City, not Milwaukee, not any of these other places. Houston is the area that they're aiming for. If they have to move the Coyotes, that's where they'd want to move them to. But if Houston has no interest in taking the Coyotes, and Quebec is the only team or the only place that'll step up and say, "Hey, we'll give them a home. They've got an arena here they can go right into. You don't have any other choice. No other place wants them. Houston doesn't want them. Salt Lake City doesn't want them. Kansas City don't want them. All these other places that they've targeted, they don't want them. We want them. We're the only ones who are stepping up to take them. What are you going to do? You can't keep them in Arizona. There's nowhere in Arizona for them to be. I think this is it for them in Arizona. I don't see, there's no other plan. There's no other arena plan, at least not anything that I've heard of. And I just, they've tried and tried and tried. I think it's done. The people of Arizona, of the state of Arizona, do not want the Arizona Coyotes. They just don't. They don't want them. Even though there are some diehard Coyote fans, they just don't want them. So, if Quebec steps up and nobody else does, and Quebec goes and basically tells the league, "Hey, none of these places want them. Arizona's already showed they don't want them. Nobody else seems to want them. We want them." What does the NHL do? What are you going to turn them down? You almost can't. If there's no other place that steps up to take the Arizona Coyotes except Quebec, the NHL might not have a choice. Even though they have no appetite to go back to Quebec, they don't have any appetite to go to Quebec. If Quebecor is the only place that steps up and said, "We'll take them." Now here's the other thing interesting. Now, here's the other thing, too. With the fact that this deal has gone south, what does Alex Meruelo do? Does he just decide, all right, I'm done? I'm done. I'm going to sell the team now? I mean, what does he do? And what happens if Quebecor goes to Alex Meruelo and says, you paid how much for this team? All right, we'll give you X amount. And what does Alex Meruelo do? I mean, it's gonna be interesting. This is gonna be a very interesting few weeks to see what is the fate of the Coyotes? What is their fate in Arizona? I honestly think I don't see them. I think their time in Arizona is done. This vote has shown overwhelmingly, the people in Arizona overwhelmingly do not want them there. They didn't want them in Phoenix. They didn't want them in Glendale. They don't want them in Tempe. I mean, I don't see anywhere in Arizona they could go. I mean, some people could say Scottsdale. They had a potential deal for Scottsdale. Scottsdale didn't want him either. I don't think the Coyotes' future in Arizona is long. I think they're going to be done. And I think it will be very interesting. Even though the NHL, they want to put them in Houston. Houston is their number one target, I would think. Because you don't have to change divisions. You would put a second team in Texas so you could have that rivalry with the Dallas Stars. You'd have to come up with a new name and a logo probably. Because Houston Coyotes, I don't see how that works. It just doesn't. It doesn't flow. The name just doesn't flow. But what if none of these other places step up and have any appetite to have these guys in their city, and Quebec is the only place that steps up and says, "We'll take them." Nobody else wants them. You don't really have much of a choice. Because honestly, in 2011, I don't think there was any appetite for Winnipeg, for the NHL to put a team back in Winnipeg. They didn't have a choice. Because Winnipeg was the only place that stepped up and said, "We've got a building, we'll take them." And so that's how we got the Winnipeg Jets back. That might be the only way that Quebec gets this potential team. I think it would work in Quebec. I think it would be fantastic if they were in Quebec. The only way I think they would get the Coyotes is if literally nobody else wants them. If nobody else wants them and Quebec steps in and says, "We'll take them." Okay, NHL, you don't have any appetite to bring a team back to Quebec. Well, what are you going to do now? You can't just have, it's either you give the team, it's either you let Quebec have the team or you completely contract the team. You're not going to contract them. They're not going to take the team away and just dissolve them. They're not going to do that. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see in the next few weeks exactly what happens. But the vote apparently was not close. The three propositions they have all failed overwhelmingly. They were all voted no. 56-44 on two of them, and the third one was 57-43. So, I mean, it wasn't even close. So, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I do think that finally, after basically 20 7 years, 26, 27 years of this experiment in Arizona, I think it's done. I don't see any other option for the Arizona Coyotes. I just don't. I don't see any other option. And I feel bad for actual Coyote fans, because there are them. There are a lot of Coyote fans there. It's just there's not enough. There's not enough of them. And they've never had a team the entire time they've been there. They've never really had a team that could be a cup contender. Winning can solve a lot of things, even potentially in Arizona. But the people in Arizona, they spoke, and they spoke loudly, and they overwhelmingly said, no, we do not want the Coyotes in Tempe. Now, what does that do for the lawsuits that are still out there? You almost have to think that with this result, because the lawsuits were to basically, stop the arena deal. Well, now that the voters rejected the arena deal, what happens to the lawsuits? I don't know. But let me know what you guys think. I'd love to know what you guys think. What do you guys think the Coyotes' future is in Arizona? Are you guys kind of in the same boat as me? Do you think they're basically on the way out? I mean, where else are they going to go? They don't have a building. They don't have a building to go into. You're not going to play it. You're not going to share an arena with Arizona State with no place to go. It's not going to happen. Where do you think they go? Do you think Houston steps up? Do you think Houston steps up and says, we'll take them? Because I think if Houston steps up and says, we'll take them, they will immediately go to Houston. Or does nobody, or do a bunch of these places look at them and say, no, we don't want nothing to do with them except Quebec? I could see it. I really could. I could see it where this team being so toxic that, Arizona didn't want them. Nowhere in Arizona wants them. I could see a lot of these other places going and saying, no, we don't really want them either. And then Quebec comes in. I could see it. I really could. And if that happens, what does the NHL do? What does the NHL do if their only place, if the only option for them to go is Quebec City? What does the NHL do? It'd be very interesting to see what the NHL would do, because I don't think they'd really have much of a choice. But we'll probably know more as the weeks go on. But I'd love to know. Well, let me know what you guys think. And yes, this has been kind of a longer video. We're almost at 30 minutes here. But let me know what you guys think. Are you guys kind of in the same boat that I am? Do you think the Coyotes' future is over now in Arizona? Do they finally get relocated? And if they do get relocated, where do they go? Does Houston step up? Or does it happen where nobody else steps up except Quebec? Let me know what you guys think. Love to know what your guys' thoughts are. Are the Coyotes done in Arizona? I think they are. Love to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments section. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the little bell too if you want to be notified of any time a future video is uploaded, if you haven't done so already. And yeah, so we may finally see the end of the Arizona Coyotes. Again, let me know what you guys think. Hit like and subscribe. Hit the little bell to turn on notifications. And if you haven't done that yet, And I'll see you guys later.